Pan pizza, called pizza alla teglia, is one of the most traditional ways to enjoy pizza throughout Italy, in restaurants and in home kitchens. So popular, and luckily so easy to make at home. It's pizza night in the Piatto kitchen, and our pizzas are just out and still steaming. Look at what a beautiful structure, so soft inside and crunchy on the outside. This one in particular, look how well it tears. A pizza that crunches and yet melts in the mouth and is highly digestible. Want to make this pizza at home? Then prepare your countertop because now we'll start prepping this dream pan pizza. The dough we will make is for 2 trays. We start with the water rather than the flour. 2 cups of water at room temperature will give us a dough with 70% hydration. A dough that is easy to work with, and that we will mix and knead by hand. However, if you prefer to use your stand mixer for mixing and kneading, of course go right ahead. We're adding 2 teaspoons of fresh yeast to the water. If you use dry yeast, cut the quantity in half, to about 1 teaspoon. And now we're adding the flour. That's 1.5 pounds, or about 5.5 cups, and all we need to do is incorporate it into the water. Easy, right? The flour that we have chosen here, a medium to medium-high strong flour. However, for more information about the flour we have used, take a look at the video description. We've shared links to the products that we've used in this video and those that we recommend. Another bit of flour. And when we start to struggle with the spoon or spatula, it simply means that we now have to start using our little hands to do the mixing. We're adding the rest of the flour, the salt, giving it a good mix, and then we move to our work surface. A small amount of oil, and we simply need to work the dough until we see that a nice gluten mesh has formed. And how do we know that we've kneaded the dough enough? Well, I'll tell you as soon as we get there. Again, take a look at the video description for more technical explanations. Now at this point, we have kneaded the dough enough. Do you see how we can fold the dough? Now this tells me that the gluten mesh has formed. So when your dough reaches this point, it means that you are done. Now we simply cover with a damp cloth and let the pizza dough rest for 20 minutes. And in the meantime, don't forget to subscribe to our channel where you will find only quality, foolproof, and tested recipes from Italy and beyond. How beautiful our dough is now. Let's stretch out the dough and take a look inside. First, to see if we've created the right gluten mesh, and secondly, to dry out the dough a bit, and third, because it's fun. In any case, if you prefer, you can skip this step and go directly to the folding. It's so thin it really looks like a sheet, and the elasticity is definitely there. And this obviously bodes well for our final pizza. Now we close the dough, and already this process begins to give a structure to our gluten, which is definitely already elastic, but doesn't yet have a shape. We simply make a round of folds and form a nice dough ball. And then leave it again on the counter, covered, for about 30 minutes. And then repeat the folding process one more time. Look how smooth the dough is. We fold, rest for another half an hour, and and then do the last round of folds. Looking good. Notice how the dough is already rising. Another letter fold. A book fold. And we seal it. Look how full of air our dough is. And now we're putting this into our pizza box to rise until it is doubled in size. About 3 hours. What a cloud of air! It's time to divide the dough into 2 pizzas. We fold each of these pieces of dough up like a letter, trying to trap in as much air as possible into the dough. And we'll do the same thing with the other piece of dough. Putting it into our little boxes to rise. And it's on to the second rise, letting the dough grow until it has doubled in size, about 2 more hours. Time to put these beautiful pizzas into their pans. We sprinkle our work surface with a bit of semolina. It doesn't need much, in fact the less we put on the better. And now to stretch out our pizza in a pan, we will do it the opposite way of how we would stretch the dough for a classic Neapolitan pizza, which has a large outer crust. That means that in our case, we crush all the edges of the dough, pushing the air inwards. We always move to the center with the fingertip, pressing and stretching. We press the center and widen and stretch it by taking the dough from the edges. Always from the edges. Until the dough is about the size of the pan that we have selected, in this case the 16 by 12 inch pan. And via! We transfer the pizza dough to the pan and give it the final adjustments. And here it's important to remember to press on the edges of the dough, but avoid pressing it from the center outwards. We don't need to be afraid to squeeze the sides because for a pan pizza, the crust should be short. This is not a Neapolitan pizza, where we want to make the big cornice, in other words, the thick outer crust. Instead, it's the opposite. Let's get the other one into the pan.
Ok, questa è quasi arrivata alla lunghezza della nostra teglia. Adesso io la allargo un pochettino. Non abbiamo paura di schiacciare i lati perché nella pizza in teglia i lati, il bordo deve essere basso, non è la pizza napoletana dove vogliamo fare il cornicione, ma è l'opposto.
Let's play with this dough a little bit and look at how elastic it is. It's elastic, but at the same time not strung out. It responds to our movements, and this is really important because it's a sign of a correct leavening time and a correct leavening in general. Our pizza dough is elastic, and it does not tear, and also it does not spring back when we try to stretch it. When we spread the dough out, it stays put, stretched out like a sheet. If the leavening time had been cut short, the dough would shrink back after we tried to stretch it. It would shrink back in towards the center. Now that we have our pieces in their little pans, we let them rest covered for half an hour, or about 45 minutes. In the meantime, let's turn on our oven. Set your oven to the maximum temperature that your home oven will allow. While the oven preheats, we're going to prepare our tomato sauce for a classic pizza margherita. For this, we just use quality tomato puree, salt, oil, and 2 whole basil leaves, which is a great way to infuse the sauce. As for the cheese, we want to put on our mozzarella at the end of the cook time. And it's into the oven for 9 minutes at 575 degrees Fahrenheit. Or you can cook the pizza for 15 minutes at 480 degrees Fahrenheit. Be sure to choose the static baking setting on your oven, not convection or fan. In the meantime, we start preparing our second pizza topping. We're trying something a little special. This is a cream of potato and onions. Check the video description for details on the ingredients we are using for the toppings. Sausage, pepper, and it's into the oven. Same temperature, same cook time. And it's time for the cheese. We want to put the cheese on at the end of the cook time. Here we've cut the mozzarella into strips in the style of a classic Neapolitan pizza. Or if you'd like, you can chop or grate the cheese. To make this like a true Italian pan pizza, avoid putting on too much cheese. And now we're heading back to the oven. At this point, you'll want to switch your oven to fan or convection at the maximum temperature in order to quickly melt the cheese and crisp out the edge of the pizza. Eccoci qua! We're ready and our pizza is steaming hot. A bit of basil and we're ready to head to the table. In our dash to taste this delicious pizza, we better not forget about the other pizza we have in the oven. And here it is. Some grated provolone cheese, some homemade potato chips, a bit more provolone cheese, and it's back into the oven on fan or convection for a couple more minutes at the maximum temperature. And this pizza is ready for the table as well. Now, wasn't that easy? A dreamy pan pizza that's crunchy on the outside and soft as air inside. Absolutely traditional, super digestible, but above all, delicious. In fact, irresistible. If you make this pizza at home, we can assure you that you will find any pizza by the slice is no longer up to par. And to top it off, we'll pop open a beautiful Italian beer. And if you like this video and the pizza, click the thumbs up button, subscribe, and don't forget to let us know in the comments how your pan pizza turned out. And buon appetito!